What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to best increase your chances at getting into Ontario residency programs. My name is Omar, aka Daher Radiology, and let's get started. Welcome back, guys. So today's video is actually based on one of the questions that I was asked on my Instagram page. I asked you guys what you wanted to see more of, and someone had asked what tips and tricks might be for getting yourself into an Ontario residency program. This is something that I can talk to because I'm from Ontario. I'm doing my residency in Ontario. I've done my med school in Ontario, so I'm very familiar with that kind of application process. These tips and tricks obviously still apply if you're trying to get into other places, but there are some things that you can do to give yourself an advantage into your interviews and your applications into getting into residency programs in Ontario. So we're going to talk about that in general. We're going to go through your application, your location, and the things you did during med school to try and increase your chances of getting noticed, or your interest in being in an Ontario residency program. And then we're going to talk about the interview and what you can do to increase your odds of getting chosen for a residency program. And at the very end, we're going to do a couple tips and tricks that may benefit you socializing and interacting with your interview processes online, with the residents, with the staff, with the different people that are interviewing you and that are accepting you into their program. Things that you can say, things that you can ask, and things that will make you feel like you have more of an advantage going into this application cycle. Of course, everything I say today is going to be of my own opinion and own experience. These things aren't set in stone. There's no strict guidelines or criteria, but these are the things that I have found to have been most successful, not only as an interviewer or an interviewee as myself and getting into a program like one in Ontario, but also being on the other side of things, being chief resident and seeing what it is that we are looking for in applications and the people that we're trying to select for our program, specifically in radiology, obviously. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is going to be location. This obviously is not something you can really change, but it's something to at least address. People who are marking your applications are usually people who are from a certain place. They have ties to that place and they want to make sure that their program is filled with smart residents, with hardworking residents. And as well, they want to be able to choose people who they think will select their program as a top choice. And that's pretty obvious, right? But it plays a huge role into who they prefer. And what I mean by that is if you've done your medical school training in Ontario, the likelihood of you staying in Ontario is going to be higher. That doesn't mean that someone out of province is going to be less likely to pick Ontario because maybe they're from Ontario. Maybe they've gone to medical school outside of the province for an experience, for, they were accepted there, for many different reasons. But location does play a big role. And if there's any advice I can give to you is that during an application cycle, when you're writing in your CARMS applications, your written applications, you should really try and stress why you want to go to the place that you're applying to go to. And I find that people who are reading your applications, when they see that there is a connection with, let's say, a specific place, a location that you have that's kind of been made, if there's family there, you've done your undergrad there, you've lived there before, or there's reasons why you want to be in that location, you have knowledge of the city, you have knowledge of the program. It really makes them feel like you've done your research and you actually feel like you want to come here. Obviously, residency is a game application process, right? There's a lot of, gamemanship, as they say, to getting into a program. And that includes trying to, favor different places and kind of butter up your application to make yourself look good in a way that someone would want you there. And one of those things is definitely the process of, showing that you're interested in that area. So in your application, you want to be able to say why you want to come to a specific city, like London, like Hamilton, like Toronto, like Ottawa. These are places that have very unique, special, communities, very different from each other in some ways and very similar in some ways. But you have to attest to the strengths of that area. For myself, for example, I came from a small city in Northern Ontario, and I was applying to a program in Southern Ontario because, I wanted to go into that program. It was a strong program, but more importantly, I had my undergrad there. I had friends, I had family there. So it was really important for me, location priority, to get into a certain place rather than the strength of a program, for example. Thankfully, mine both lined up in interest. So I essentially tried to promote why I wanted to go to London, Ontario, the most that I could. And by doing so, I really highlighted the fact that I had family there, that I did my undergraduate there, and that I was able, to make a strong connection there. I knew the city. I knew, a lot about it that someone who wasn't interested in going into that city wouldn't know about. So at the end of the day, location is really important to highlight in something like your personal letter, in something like, I know in the times where there weren't, where there was the ability to do an elective, that was a huge bonus to be able to go to that city and do the elective itself. If you were able to go and travel there, it showed that you had interest in going there and that you were willing or likely to actually rank that place higher up on your priority list. All in all, it's really important that you are highlighting the reason why you want to go to a certain place, and it'll help with the applicant or the person who's marking your application. It'll help them give them an idea of what is this place a priority to you, if it's something that you're trying to rank high or if you're just trying to keep it as an option, because obviously we want to pick people that are going to prioritize us in the algorithm rather than just have someone who looks good on paper but is probably going to go somewhere else. So that's how I would kind of frame a place if your priority is location. A lot of people are asking in general, what's the best way to just, get into Ontario, and specifically Ontario as a province, all of the different types of schools. And in doing so, really, it's really broad, having a lot of research, having a good application in general, and having the interview skills going into the cycle is going to be your best chance at getting where you want to go into, because people are going to prioritize you that way. But if you're really looking for somewhere specific, you need to tailor your application and your interview questions kind of towards that. Obviously, historically, you're thinking like Toronto is a research-based program. McMaster and Western have really close-knit resident bodies. They are mid-level, kind of mid-size residency programs that do quite a bit of independent call features and stuff like that. You have Queens and Ottawa that are close in proximity. You basically are going to cater your application towards what you think that program has to offer, and then that way that people will know that you're actually interested in something. The last thing that we're going to talk about is going to be the interview. So the interview is definitely going to be the most important part of your interview process, because it'll allow someone that face-to-face interaction with you and to see how you are as and someone in real life, because till this point you've been a number on an application, and all you've been is just kind of your past successes on a piece of paper. In the interview, I will say that everyone is kind of on the same playing field. Obviously, your scores from your application are going to carry forward, and they're going to play a part in the last end of decision, but really your interview should reflect who you are and what you're looking for. So your interview is going to highly depend on what school that you're targeting. So when I say that I wanted to go to Western, I really highlighted the fact that I did my undergrad there. I have family here. I have friends here. I've spent many summers here, and I've done all of these activities in the surrounding areas. Things that are very unique to the city itself and to the surrounding areas, that allow the person who's interviewing you kind of to realize, like, hey, this guy clearly knows what London is all about, and would be very willing or wanting to come here, clearly because of their past. And so they would probably favor you in a better light than someone else, and that could actually increase your chances of getting in, because it's not just about how good your application is. Don't get me wrong, that's a huge part of it. But when you're putting someone head to head that is scoring 100 on their application because they've done so much research and they've done a PhD and a master's and all of these extra things to their application, that person may not actually be best fit to a program like ours, where we want residents that kind of are willing to be team players, and that are willing to be a part of our resident body, that are fitting in with our interests and fitting in with our group, because that's really what's important to us residents. Having a close-knit cohort that takes care of each other. The seniors really take care of the juniors. The call life in Western is very unique, and it is one in which the seniors really teach the juniors. The juniors do double call. The seniors are doing solo call. You have to get good fast. It's a high pressure environment, but it's a very supportive one from the residents themselves. People who are backing you up are always going to be there for you. And we all know the struggles. So we want people who fit into that culture and that mindset, and someone who's willing to take on that responsibility. So we may pick that person who we felt that we had a bigger connection with. They know London. They know what it's like to be in our residency program. They've actually reached out to us. They've had conversations with the chief residents and different residents and said, I know how call is like. I've experienced call, if you had the opportunity to do so. I've actually worked with such and such, and that gives us a better idea that, okay, yeah, this person is absolutely understanding of how things will be here. And it would give us more ease to know that, as opposed to someone who's a superstar, they may be a superstar on paper, but they have no idea what our program is like. They don't know that call is really hard here. Maybe they're looking for more research-oriented residency programs, and not to say that you can't do that here, but you may be better fit for a Toronto program if you want to have 18 million publications, right? No shots fired in any direction, of course, but these are the realities of trying to get into programs that you want to get into. So catering your kind of responses to the places that you want to go to is super important. The other point to the interview is to kind of get an idea what the interviewer is asking you. So each interview is going to be super different. And of course, there are going to be the similar questions that you prepare for, like, why do you want to pick our program? Why do you want to go into radiology? These things are, questions that you're going to have ready no matter what. But a lot of the programs are actually going to have specific questions that are more catered towards their program and get an idea of how you would react in that situation. I remember going through my CARMS tour, and some of the questions were like, how do you deal with a code? And it was something like very foreign, to me at the time, because, I had been doing a whole bunch of electives, really wasn't doing much clinical medicine at the time. And you were just like, oh, wow, I had to remember my previous, ACLS and courses and stuff like that. So, but that program really wanted to know, hey, do you still know your clinical medicine? Are you still able to conduct that kind of thing? Toronto was obviously based heavily on, research capabilities, your previous academic successes, and showing that your application is strong and that you're independent and that you're not someone who needs to be, held in their hand. McMaster and Toronto are always going to favor people who fit best into their resident group. And so those are the types of qualities and characteristics we're looking for when you're answering those questions. So you have to be ready for each of the individual schools and what they have to offer. So that's it, guys. All in all, we've talked about your location, your interest into the different cities and places in which the residency programs are offered. We talked about interviews and the types of questions that you may ask, that you may get asked, that you would want to favor towards a specific place, and to try and mention why you want to go to that specific place, to allow the interviewer to feel a sense of, yes, they want to come here for these reasons, and I'm going to fight for them to do that. And finally, the last thing that I just wanted to do is to say, when you are in the interview, make sure you present yourself in a way that is genuine to you. Don't try and be someone you're not, because you may actually do yourself a disservice when you're trying so hard to try and fit into a program specific, and they're actually not a good fit for you based on your personality, based on your interests, based on who you want to be as a physician. So try and be genuine to yourself and to the others, because they will see through that as well. Try and show your genuine passion or want to be in a certain place, even if it is not exactly identical. So for example, you're from Hamilton, but you want to apply to Western, because it's still in close proximity and it's something you'd be very used to or able to commute to or to move to, because your family and friends are still close by. Obviously people are going to say, oh, this person's probably going to pick Hamilton, but at the same time, there's a strong chance that you're going to pick Western as well. So these are the types of things that you should be thinking about in how you present yourself. But at the end of the day, try and stay genuine to yourself. Ask questions that you feel you would need to know moving into your decision. The CARMS application process is just as much beneficial to the person who's applying than it is for the people who are accepting. The algorithm works in your favor as much as it is in our favor. When you put places in a ranked order, it really does work in terms of the algorithm to select the place that are picking each other. So if you can prove to someone that you want to be there, they'll be convinced that they want you there. And so that algorithm will match that kind of quality and characteristic. At the end of the day, have fun with it. Treat each interview as if it's a game. That's the best way I can explain it to people, is if you come in with low stress and low anxiety, and just kind of give it your best as if, what's the worst that can happen, you'll tend to perform in a way that is more natural, and people will see that you're not afraid and you're not stressing out about it, and that you're confident. And I think that's the best way to show your genuine self. And at the end of the day, have fun with it, because people like people who are going to have fun and to be part of a program. People are people. Humans still want human interactions. You're going to be doing your interviews online, but that doesn't mean that you can't show through the screen who you are and what you stand for. So have fun with it, and make sure that, don't say things that are extreme in any way. Try and be, be someone who would want to be chosen in a program. And yeah, those are so many different types of tips and tricks that I could really offer. Go on forever really about the analyzing of the individual applicants. People come together afterwards, they talk about absolutely everything from your application to your interview to even just social interactions and general interest in the program. All of these things are taken into consideration when ranking. Everyone makes a rank list, everyone gets put on the rank list, and you hope that you are high enough to your own rank list that you'll match to that program. I hope this was helpful. I have many other videos on my YouTube channel about interviews and applications that go into more details about those specific subsets. This was just a video to kind of go into specifically Ontario residency programs. This still applies to other residency programs elsewhere. The same information would apply, just in a different province. But I was asked this question on Instagram, so thank you very much for that. And if you have any more questions, any more requests for videos, let me know in the comments below. Hit me up on Daha Radiology on Instagram. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll see you guys in the next time.